joins us will acknowledge that he came. This is the Historic Preservation Commission for July 26, 2021. And can we have a roll call, please?
Sorry, Commissioner Keller. Sorry, you're here, right?
Yeah.
Commissioner Keller. Okay. Commissioner Clemmy.
Here.
Commissioner Berg.
Present.
Chair Haley.
Here. Thank you. And for our agenda this evening, are there any items that we need to add or change? And if not, we can move to approve.
Sorry, Chair Haley, do you want to start with the electronic meeting procedures?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Yep. So welcome to the meeting. All commissioners will be on video. Commissioners and staff will be asked to click raise hand when they wish to speak. The chair will call on individuals to speak. Commissioners and staff are asked to keep their microphones muted until called upon. Members of the public will be muted during presentation and commissioner discussion. For the public participation, the public may join the meeting from a computer or dial in by phone. All public members are muted upon entry. To make comment during public comment segments, if you're on a computer, click the raise hand icon. It is either in the participant panel or on the right hand of your screen, or in the control panel at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and you may have to hover over that area to see it. If you're on the phone, just hit 9 to raise your hand. The chair will call on those with raised hands individually. You will be unmuted when called upon. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Thank you for reminding me about that. All right. And then for our agenda for this evening, do we have any changes or additions?
So yeah, I was just curious about the May 4th, 2020 approval of minutes.
Are you talking about the minutes? We're on the agenda still.
No, I know, but on the agenda is the approval.
Sorry.
And it was the May 4th, 2020?
I think that was our extra meeting. We had the second.
Okay, and we probably just never, is it 2020 or 2021?
2020.
Yeah, they're from 2020.
Yep, it's Chair Haley is exactly right. It was just you guys had a couple of meetings that month, and then this one just didn't get approved. So we just want to make sure we put into the record, and that's why it's on the agenda tonight.
So this was for 2020 though, because here.
That's correct.
Here, oh, okay.
Okay, so we're approving minutes from 14 months ago, and okay. Anyway, I move to approve the agenda.
Okay. Any seconds? Just looking through those real quick.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 All right, the agenda is approved for this evening and for May 4th of last year, even though Commissioner Berg was not there. All right, and then looking at the agendas for those two, are there any changes or anything that we look in as we look through those?
No, I move to approve the minutes from the June 2021 meeting as well as the May 4th, 2020 minutes.
Okay.
I second that motion.
All right, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. All right, any public comments that are not on our agenda tonight? And I don't see anyone with raised hands. And then we'll move on to our first probable cause determination, which is 929 Lafarge Avenue. We'll have a presentation from staff.
Excellent. Good evening, commissioners. How are all of you tonight? It's good to see all of you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And I'm guessing everyone can see it okay? Excellent. So this evening before you for the first probable cause determination is 929, Lafarge Avenue. And so it's a request to find probable cause to allow for funding of a historic structure assessment. As you can see in the slide before you, on the left-hand side in the dashed yellow is the exact location of the home there at just south of the corner of South Street and Lafarge Avenue. And then on the right is the map of the general location. Here before you now is on the left-hand side is a historic photo from the 1955 assessor's photo card. And then on the right-hand side is the present day photo. And then these are just two further photos. So the one on the left-hand side of your screen would be essentially the southeast elevation, but still the front elevation. And then on the right-hand photo would be still the front facade there, and then just showcasing more of the northeast elevation so you can see some of the previous or existing addition in the rear of the property. Just as a reminder, overall, landmarks must be at least 50 years old. Landmarks must meet one or more of the criteria for architectural, social, or geographic/environmental significance. And landmarks should meet one or more criteria for physical integrity. So for the culturally significant in Louisville. So this vernacular homes such as this one speak to the heritage of many community members over time, and this one is certainly no different. For its social significance, the staff does find that the structure exemplifies the cultural and social heritage of the community, and there is probable cause to meet this criterion, both for the family connection to the Bottinellis who lived there from about the time it was built in 1948, and then certainly its kind of overall touchstone to Italian immigrants and coal mining associations throughout Louisville overall. And then for its physical integrity, both as we mentioned it's over 50 years old, but it's also been its original location since it was built. And then, while there have been some alterations to the building over time, staff does believe that it retains many of the 7 aspects of integrity, including location, setting, feeling, and association. There's a large addition to the west, but staff does believe, in other recordings of the surveying of the property have noted that it's well portioned in that its bulk is minimized when viewing it from the street. Here before you now is just some notes of the goals of the Preservation Master Plan, as would be part of both landmarking and the probable cause grant, if you so approve. And therefore, staff recommends that the HPC finds there is a probable cause for landmarking at 929 Lafarge Avenue under the criteria in section 153650. The current maximum amount available for HSA is $4,000, and you may by motion approve or deny the finding of probable cause. And I'm here for any questions if you need it.
All right. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any specific questions for staff?
No.
All right. And the applicant is here. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep, we have Erica and Andy, it looks like, on here if they have any questions for you, or if they wanted to present it all as well.
Perfect.
Evening. Hi, this is Andy Johnson with DAJ Designs. Nice to see you all. Thanks for having us on again to talk about a probable cause determination. This is a great House, as you can tell from the 1950 photo, it has a striking resemblance with almost no changes. So it's fun to see homes that have weathered the years as this one has. I am familiar with the house and know the addition. It does seem to have a fairly minimal impact on the historic structure. So if there are any concerns in regards to that, I can't offer that bit of information, but we are looking forward to digging in and learning more about the home. Both Erica and Jeremy Carlson, the owners, are on the call. They're allowing me to speak on their behalf, but they're available to speak if there are any questions that they would either like to answer or you'd like to ask them directly.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant, either the owners or Andy?
Yeah, just generally. So right out the gate, I'm curious to know about the foundation, if they know anything about the condition of the foundation under the original portion, like.
Hi, here's Erica and Jeremy. Did you want to ask us? We had our foundation assessed when we did the addition 12 years ago, and they found it to be very good. There wasn't any problems with it. There's a small crack when we first bought the house. What was that, 16 years ago? And they said it wasn't, it's been there for 50 years probably. So nobody has ever given us concerns about the foundation.
Okay, so it's not one of those crazy dry rock build things. Like at some point along the line, they made it not 1893 foundation. They fixed it somewhere already.
Andy, I don't know if you can speak about it, but we've never had any problems, and there is foundation down there.
There's a concrete foundation.
Oh wow.
It looks like they sort of started just with the central area, and then I think it was dug possibly after the fact, because you certainly might not do that basement if you had started from there.
Okay. Well, that's amazing then, I think, that they did that work and it's still so original to how it was. That's kind of cool.
All right,
That's my only question.
okay. Anyone else have anything? All right, thank you very much. We'll see if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment before we bring it back for discussion. And I don't see any. So we'll bring it back for discussion. And also, Commissioner Dunlap has joined us now, so welcome back. Can you hear us better now, or is your connection better?
I restarted my computer. I switched to my phone. It was probably making a lot of noise too, so
Okay.
now I'm back on the computer. So
Okay, that's good. You didn't miss much, so you're good. All right. So this is a probable cause. So it has to be 50 years or older, which this definitely exceeds that requirement. It has great architectural integrity, even with the addition, which is very sensitive as far as being in the back and not really being visible from the front. So the architectural integrity is great as far as doors and windows, and then the social integrity and social history, I'm sorry, is also very much there. So those are 3 criteria that we look at. Does anyone have any other thoughts or confirmation or?
I would just agree with what you said, Chair Haley. And I also noted in the report that was put together that this property wasn't in the historical context report in terms of being flagged for landmarking, but it was included in that as sampled houses included. So a sample of the architectural styles found in Louisville. So that's, I think, worth noting, that this house has been noticed before as a common vernacular style, for that time period in Jefferson Place.
Absolutely. And the fact that it's in Jefferson Place also is an important piece.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good candidate. It meets our social, it meets the physical, it meets the architectural, it meets the timeline. I think it's a good candidate to keep pursuing and see what we can learn.
Sure.
Yeah, when looking at the photos that were included, it looks like the siding is contemporary. So I'd be interested to see, what the owners might find with an HSA and what siding might be under there in particular, or window structures, things like that. So there's a lot that could be learned about the house.
For sure.
Is this proposed to be called the Bottinelli House?
Well, that will be
That's later,
decided.
yeah.
Well, that's decided if they decide to landmark. So
Okay,
no
yeah.
names have been proposed yet because it's just probable cause.
All right.
So, but I'm sure they'll be in the running. Keith and Gary, do you have any
I
thoughts?
don't.
Okay.
It looks like a good candidate to me. It fits all of the criteria we like to look at.
Okay.
So it would be worthwhile to be included.
All right.
No, I agree. That's a great candidate. Let's at least do the assessment and see if there's any unhidden issues.
Sure. Yeah, and the fact that it has already had an addition probably says that the structure is fairly in good condition, or else they wouldn't have done the addition in the first place. So that's probably a good sign.
I agree. Well, I'll move to approve 929 Lafarge Avenue for probable cause and an structural assessment grant, HSA grant.
Yeah, you're a month out of practice.
I am.
We all are.
And I will second the motion.
All right, we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Keller,
Yes.
Commissioner Clemmy,
Yes.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Chair Haley.
Yes. So thank you for coming to us this evening. We look forward to getting the HSA back and hopefully working with you further. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, you too. All right, we have another probable cause determination. This one is for 728 Grant Avenue, and we'll have another staff report.
There we go. Sorry, it always trips me up when I have 3 screens, even though I've been doing this for a few months now, but here we go. So we have before you this evening another probable cause determination, this time for 728 Grant Avenue. So this would be a request to find probable cause for a landmark designation to allow funding for historic structure assessment for 728 Grant. So before you on your screen on the right-hand side would be an approximate a detailed location of where the property is. They're outlined in the dashed yellow line. So right there near Spruce and Grant Avenue. And then on the left-hand side is just an approximate star location of where the property is located in Old Town overall. This is a pretty interesting photo that came from the report and also from the museum. So if you can see, I know it's a little blurry from when I kind of enlarged it, but in the dashed yellow on the kind of sort of upper right-hand side is outlining what they believe to be 728 Grant. This is I believe, just a group of school children from an elementary school that was located there. And they think it's circa 1920s, though the date isn't exact from the museum, but it, with some of the indications in the cars and such, it gives you a good sense of that view of the property without many obstructions. Some other photos of the property. So on the left-hand side would be the sort of northwest elevation. So you can't see too much of the side there since the tree's in the way, but on the right-hand side would just be the opposite. Still the front facade, but then facing southwest, so giving you some of that elevation and some more detailing with the tree not being quite as in the way. Just as a general reminder, of course, for landmarks, they need to be 50 years old. They should meet one or more of the criteria for architectural, social, or geographic and environmental significance, and they should also meet one or more of the criteria for physical integrity. On the right-hand side is a photo from the 1978 assessor's card. So this is a good view without some of the tree obstruction as well. And so, as you can see, the property was constructed circa 1904, would make it approximately 117 years old, so well past the 50 years of criteria eligibility. It would also, staff also finds that the style and integrity of the structure do have probable cause to meet the criteria for architectural significance. This is an excellent example of a Dutch colonial revival home, which we don't have very many of. If you do review the residential context report that we have both available online and that we sometimes reference in our staff reports, that report indicates finding 2. There could be some more that they may not have found, but those are the 2 we know of, and arguably this is an excellent example of it, with some of the gambrel roof and some of the other sort of Victorian or shingle style detailing. So the decorative shingling detailed in the gables are certainly distinctive and were an important character defining features of many 1900 era homes, and certainly of this particular style. It also meets social significance. The staff does find that the structure exemplifies the cultural and social heritage through its ties to coal mining industry, in particular Harry Van Meter, or Mater, I may be pronouncing that wrong, so my apologies. He was once the president of the National Fuel Company, who did, and the National Fuel Company did know to have some ties to the Monarch mine, so some extended connections there. And then certainly the style itself, the Dutch colonial revival, would have cultural or social ties to kind of general architectural dispositions at the time it would have been built. For its physical integrity, it's located in its original location, and then it's also located in the Pleasant Hill subdivision, which was platted by the founder of Louisville's area's first mine. And then it also, staff does believe it retains all 7 aspects of historic integrity. So that would be location, setting, design, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. So for that, we do believe it certainly meets the physical integrity. Just again, a note for the preservation master plan, it would meet the goals there before you in 3 and 5. This is another photo. This is circa 1970s, 1980s. That's staff's interpretation. This photo is from the museum, but it didn't have a date on it. The guess would be just sort of by the photo and the size. They tore down the tree and then planted a new one. We just guessed that's about when this photo would be from. So that's a little context on that. But staff does recommend that the HPC find there is probable cause for landmarking for 728 Grant Avenue under the criteria of the Louisville Municipal Code. The current maximum amount for a historic structure assessment is $4,000, and HPC may, by motion, approve or deny the finding of probable cause. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for staff? Is the applicant here tonight?
I saw them come on before, but it looks like they've come off. So they did plan to be here, but it looks like, I don't know if they might be having Zoom troubles as well.
Well, if they end up coming in during our discussion, we can always let them talk. Okay. All right. So any other questions for staff, or any questions? And any comments from the public? I don't see any hands raised. So we'll bring it back for discussion. I think this is a pretty clear cut, especially if all 7 are pretty strongly supported. I think the architecture, or the Dutch colonial style, is really exciting. That means we've met our 50% of our goal, so that's good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's especially the Dutch Colonial. I've never seen one like that.
Mhm.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Right, I was reading what was put together for tonight and a reference that maybe there's one other in town, but I don't know where I've seen another one in town. I'll start looking, I think, but it'd be really special to keep this property.
Mhm.
The owner who, didn't he head the National Fuel Company? Is that what that said? That was the company in Louisville. And they own the Mercantile Store, which is, at Main and Spruce. So it's about 2 blocks or 3 blocks from where this house is. So you can sort of see them walking to work,
Right, exactly.
to the company store.
Right, which plays into a lot of the geographical like history.
Mhm.
That's great.
I have a question, which I probably should have asked when I first started here a couple months ago. But when the recipients receive the grant, does that be great to see what's going on with this house? Will that come back to us, that assessment, so that we can review that? I mean, because they could decide not to do anything with the house, and will we only see it if they decide to do something with the house, or will we see the assessment no matter what?
I'm pretty sure the city gets it regardless because we pay for it. So,
Right.
but it will be reported, but we could have access to it, I think, but we can ask staff that specifically.
Yep. So typically what it'll look like is after they get the grant or they start to do the work, whomever that they had contracted to do the work and kind of do the report, I should say, a draft will come back to staff. And part of the sort of requirements is that we get to look at a draft, review it, see what the history says, and make sure everything's in line with kind of our requirements for the scope of work. And then staff does sign off on sort of a final draft, and then we save that. So that would be available. And then it would be, as you note, it would be available in a part of a kind of collected packet if they did pursue something else, certainly. So you would see the full HSA then. We include it in the packet. But then actually tonight, I know that in the past you've had HSA reports here, or basically reports on previous HSAs done. And I've started, since in my time here, I have not done that, but tonight is the first night where I've brought some back that I saw come in, that I finaled in the past month since our past meeting. And so that can change. This will be the first night you can see if you like how I report it, but nonetheless, to that point, I think it would be nice to see, so you all can see not just that probable cause or landmarking, but the HSAs and the report of them, even just here at the meeting in general, when the reports are done, not necessarily if, they're applying for something else, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll review some tonight and that would continue. So that was a long way to say that potentially when this one's done, we would bring it back and you could see it then too.
Okay. And then just a follow-up question. So once we have that report, the owners will do what they want with that information. Let's say the property changes ownership and then new owners want to do an HSA. Would this one, the existing HSA, just be pulled and referenced?
So, right. So if it's sold, it would stay with it in the sense
With
that
the
the
house.
new owners wouldn't be able to request a new one, but certainly we would have them full access to this, let's say it is this property, just as an example. They would get this report when it's done. They would certainly have access to that as well. So yeah, it wouldn't be a new one, but they would get to, receive this one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of to re-ask Chrissy's question, because I guess I'd never thought that through either. I noticed that you are presenting 2 HSAs tonight. Is that optional, as you're saying it? If somebody wasn't obviously pursuing something, would it be presented to the commission? Because I know we've seen plenty of them. Is that a choice by the planning staff? Or?
Yeah, so as part of what the scope of work outlines, so where that says, once you get the HSA and you've hired a contractor, you have to do these things for the HSA report. It's not, and then to finish it out and get your payment and that sort of thing. It's not part of that list. But, I think in terms of actually in the general context of exactly what we're talking about, I think it's nice for us to see them, in the interim, after they're done and then before hopefully they all landmark right and we see them again, but just so we can see them in that interim period. So it's not a requirement, for for the contractor or the homeowner, whomever. But I think that as a staff decision, and if you all like tonight's presentation, it would be a good thing to include in our meetings. So you can see them. So yeah.
But if the homeowner chooses not to pursue a landmarking, would you still do the HSA or only?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
And so my plan, which again, we can change as you wish, but that's a good point. I'm sorry I didn't kind of clarify that. But my goal would be to, the ones we finalized, so where staff has reviewed them, staff has worked with the contractor that submitted them, and they are good to go, they're finalized. Taking the ones that are final in between the last meeting and this meeting, bringing those most recent ones done. So for instance, the 2 tonight, I reviewed and read and kind of corresponded in this past month. So they're brand new in that sense. So yeah, it wouldn't be lagged necessarily, but of course you would see it again if they did come for landmarking.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Now that report, I guess I would suggest that maybe we should always see those, even if it's just a brief synopsis in the meeting and you didn't spend much time going over the HSA as it was prepared. And would that be the archive of the report, the assessment report that is linked off of our notes or our meeting notes? Or is there a different archive of where those documents are?
I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, they typically live kind of in our files just at City Hall here.
Mm-hmm.
And so because they're public in the sense that, they would be submitted at time of a landmark, or certainly someone could request to see them. And then, but yeah, they wouldn't necessarily be linked necessarily in a report unless they're part of the packet, which again, in the instance of tonight, since I'd be reporting on 2 of the HSAs, I included the full report as part of the packet. So in tonight's instance and probably future meeting instances, those full reports would be a part of the overall packet. And then I'd be reporting on in one-off situations, you might just have to request that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it would probably, since it is, as you said, a public report that the city's paid for, that everybody could see, that maybe there should be an archive to keep those. Sort of like there is the history reports done through the museum or otherwise that are available, say, on the city websites.
That's good. I'll make a note. Yeah.
And we can discuss more of this when we actually get into the HSS too, like because I think it'll give us a lot of insight once we hear and kind of go through. I think we can kind of fine tune maybe what we want and don't want and what's important and all that stuff. So yeah, so that's good. Just make notes of what we need to discuss later on in the agenda. We can go over that because that's all good points for sure.
I think at our last meeting, we had a house where the HSA was being done again, also on Grant. And yeah, it would probably in those cases be interesting to see what the prior work was.
Well,
this is Cameron and Ann Wise, and listen meeting.
Coming in, they're muted. Is that our applicant, Kim? Okay.
It is.
Yes, this is Cameron and Ann Wise, and we have been listening.
Can you still hear us?
Yes, it's a little bit choppy,
Okay.
but we've been listening except for the last couple of minutes.
Okay, then you didn't miss anything because we were talking about some business stuff, so that's great. Was there anything that you wanted to say before we start discussing the probable cause as a commission?
No, just to thank the commissioners, the members of the commission for entertaining the application.
That's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think so far, I think we're all very excited about this property. So we're very appreciative of your interest in our program. So yeah, so thanks
That's great to hear. We are on a road trip. And so as soon as you feel that you have the information you need from us, we're going to continue on.
Okay. So we're just finalizing our thoughts. I think we're probably really close to making a motion. So does anyone have any other, well, we'll bring it back to our discussion again. It sounds like we're all solid on this meeting all the criteria for architectural integrity, age, and social significance. So would someone like to make a motion for us?
I would move that we approve the HSA for this property,
And the probable cause.
the probable cause, yeah.
All right.
I'll second that.
And we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Keller,
Yes.
Commissioner Clemmy,
Yes.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Chair Haley.
Yes. All right. So again, thank you for joining us on this call, and we look forward to seeing the HSA on this property and then hopefully working towards landmarking. So have fun on your road trip.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks. Bye. All right. So our next item is items from staff. So we'll do the memo and then the HSA reports.
Excellent. All right. So we have two subcommittee updates for you this evening. One was an alteration certificate subcommittee for 1213 Jefferson. So the subcommittee did release a permit to replace the current siding, which you can see on the photo on the right-hand side there. So historic research of our building permit files did confirm that the existing siding is not historic and had been replaced over time, and that the proposed replacement siding is consistent with the historic context. So they did release that permit. And then a similar alteration certificate subcommittee release for 841 Jefferson. So same thing on the right-hand side, you could see the siding there. And the subcommittee did release a permit to replace the existing siding with hardy board replacement siding. It looks to be up. I drive Jefferson home every day, so I caught the updates on that one. So the subcommittee felt there would be no significant impact or potential detriment to the historic resource, and that the siding that did exist was newer than 1955. So they did release that at subcommittee as well. I did have a couple meeting updates. Before I touch on what's exactly before you, just as an update in general for virtual meetings, looks like we will stay virtual until September. So City Council did hear about potential in-person hybrid virtual meetings at their July 13th meeting. And because we're one of the commissions that also are live on YouTube and so have that particular technology, which is the same as City Council, when they get as they're waiting to get the technology in to be able to do hybrid more easily and more efficiently, we're going to wait until at least September when that is come in. It looks like it's on back order. So just a general update, if you all were wondering, at least September, and then we'll certainly keep our eye on it if it's later than that or what it looks like. So just so everyone knows. And then for, since we're on the meeting, a scheduled meeting, August 16th will be our next one. So on the continuation, it will be virtual. So that'll stay the same there. And then July 29th, which is this Thursday, will be our first of our few series of plaque ceremonies. So I do have two confirmations for this Thursday, which we could be in person at the houses, and we've slated them to start at 6:30, present the first one, and then move on. So if you all, I did confirm, we could all be there. We just couldn't talk business. It would be about the plaque ceremony itself. But if everyone wants to join, everyone could certainly be there. So I just want to make sure that's noted. And then what I can do is I can send a note out to all of us as a committee, just a reminder on Thursday, and so we know where to meet. We'll probably be at 917 Lafarge first, but I'll confirm that via email so you know where to go and all that sort of stuff. And then I can move right into, since it's next, into the HSAs unless, okay, great. So I have two before you, as we talked a little bit about a moment ago. Right now, kind of to Commissioner Dunlap's point, they are pretty short. They're about 5 slides. After we go through them, or as we go through them, we can, let this be a little bit of a test. I apologize if I'm not quite giving you the information you're looking for, but I can certainly add that in future presentations. But again, to note or to confirm, the full reports will be a part of the meeting packet. And then just like our regular reports, this is kind of a truncated presentation, but this can certainly change as you wish. So the first one we have is 834 Lincoln. So this again was a historic structure assessment. As part of what I've done in terms of outlining these so far is I felt it might be nice to remind everyone kind of when these came before you as a probable cause meeting, or kind of when you saw them first. So in this case, it was January of 2021. And then I also, per some of our discussions, and probably might be nice for us to know, I've also included who did them. So in this case, this was, DHA Design, so Andy, and then the structural engineer was Glenn Frank. So based on a lot of our discussions of HSAs, I've wanted to include both so you all know when we're seeing them if there was a structural engineer, if that was a part of this assessment, or was it just an architect, that sort of thing. So in this case, there was two, and so they're noted there. And then just a little bit of general history. So there's always the site location on the left-hand side there. And then I included just a little summary from sort of Bridget's history report. So this one was actually moved from its current location, one of many Louisville homes to be relocated. Interestingly, as well, many are relocated from mines. This one was relocated from Denver in the area that's essentially Cherry Creek Shopping Center, but still one of our many relocated homes in Louisville. So pretty interesting there. I figured one of the other good things that might be great for us to kind of get a refresher on or see what the report sort of, highlighted or found during it is sort of the changes or kind of general additions perhaps over time. Certainly that's something included in history and staff reports, but I know that when we review landmarks or other things that may come forward, it's always nice to kind of see what the timeline physically looks like. So I've included that, and that is one of the requirements of the HSA. So you can see on the left-hand side is a site plan, essentially just a floor plan of the main level here. And then there's color-coded, which matches on the right. You can see it's matched. And sort of, for instance, as an example, in blue is the rear addition, and you can see that that was 1977. So there were a number of additions over time, but the red portion would be original, plus the yellow covered porch. Those were moved together in the 60s. And then the first edition would have been that first in the back, the orange, the blue I already mentioned, and then you can see the bay window in purple, and then the green sunroom. So this is, I thought, a nice breakdown of kind of what the house has changed over time and what that looks like. And then the next, after this slide, but as a setup slide, I know what's probably interesting or what's great to probably see again, and so I've included here, would be at the end, it's section 5 of as required by the scope of work. There requires a sort of preservation plan to be noted at the end. And so it notes that the preservation plan should kind of go in line with the recommended treatments from another section, but also it should prioritize them in what they say is logical order. And so that would sort of rank it as most urgent work, medium work, and then not as serious work. And so what I've also included are some of the critical prioritized work that was noted for this property as part of the HSA. So that would be the kind of focus on this first priority. And so in this HSA, as was noted, as you can see the historic photo on the left, so remove the steel trim and the window shutters with the steel siding. Original trim will likely be revealed below. Refinish or replace the original trim to match. Remove the finished tiles from the front porch and assess the structure of the porch and repair and replace. So those, I thought you all might like to see kind of what are the main things that might be needed, per the HSA or per the sort of structural engineer review. So that would be included in here as well. And so I believe that's kind of how I have it. So I'll move on to 501. It looks the same, but we can kind of go through that. And then again, this can change per needs or per desire, so we can take a look at that. But the other one staff reviewed this past month would have been 501 Jefferson for another historic structure assessment. So again, you can see it there at the corner of Hutchinson and Jefferson, so further south on Jefferson. Same thing, the probable cause you all saw in February of 2020. The HSA report was done by Peter Stewart, and then there wasn't a structural condition assessment, and that was done by JVA Consulting Engineers. And then this house was also relocated from the Columbine mine camp in 1948, and it was the home of William and Ruth Leslie from 48 to 1974. Same thing here. Here's a floor plan of the main floor. You can see, again, kind of color-coded. The light blue is an addition. The second one, the first one was from 1975, which is in green. The main house is in that yellow, cream, orangish color, depending on your screen. But that was pre-1948. And then there was a basement addition in the 1980s. But then as you can kind of see listed, the chronology or the sort of timeline in general is listed on there as well, showing you kind of what some of the additions were and what some of the changes were over time. Same thing, this is just the note that we're going to take a look at some of the prioritized recommendations, which is requested by the scope of work. And then for this one, there was just one main critical or high prioritized work. So it would be reinforce the roof rafters over the original portion of the house. And then for serious or kind of medium level, one of the examples from the report included repair or reinforce entry porch stoop. So you can kind of see the photo on the left there. So again, just a short presentation, but with that, I'm here for any questions.
Oh, that's awesome. That's exactly, yeah, love it. To see it come back, because some of them, you know, the homeowner might not get to landmarking for 12 months or whatever. And it's nice that we have just here's the critical, here's the, right? So then over time, I'm picturing like, you know, we can see, yeah, so we have we're seeing a lot of foundation problems, or we're seeing a lot of roof problems, or we're seeing a lot of porch problems. I think it'll help us kind of organize in our mind, like what's happening with these properties over time, and I don't know, maybe in some way encourage homeowners to, you know, fix them or whatever before it's too late.
I think this also helps us know what to expect. Like we kind of know what's coming. Right. Yeah. And I like having the full report, but also just going through the succinct together as a group and just kind of having a good understanding, be able to ask questions, general questions, maybe before, yeah, just kind of helps us wrap our mind around a project and a house and just know what we're getting. I think the other great thing is that this will help us refine and make sure that what our expectations are jiving with what staff is seeing. And so if we're like, oh, this isn't as complete as we'd like it, then there's a really quick turnaround for staff to say, okay, we actually need more information here. So I think that's going to be a really great way that we can control or just make sure that we're getting good quality HSAs and just have that understanding as a commission. Because I feel like that's been our main thing, is like, how do we know what we're getting and if we're getting our and all that stuff. So this is a great just accountability piece of we're all on the same page and we're seeing it on a regular basis. So I think this is a great idea. So thanks for doing that. Gary, did you want to bring up some of your concerns or questions?
I agree. It's that this referenced the architect who's doing the HSA, and it referenced the structural engineer. And then we have that report. I guess, yes, having it archived still where we could go look by address or by date or both would be really helpful. It might in the future. I did have one little off the wall question here. I think it doesn't matter, but the stucco that was on that sounded like it was just about exactly 50 years ago. And I guess it wouldn't matter if the stucco were subsequent to the actual time period of interest to us, because we have seen houses that are covered with brick and things like that are later, and that we go ahead and landmark. So I guess it doesn't matter. Are there any tests to look at exactly when that stucco went on? Maybe it wouldn't matter here.
That's a good question. There certainly are, and I'm sure probably you'd have to like date it. You could probably take a sample and date it. I wouldn't necessarily know that. If you're saying you're trying to get exactly when that stucco was put on or sort of when, I wouldn't necessarily know that. That would be a part of, and I could double check. I might have just missed it. It might be in the larger report where they could guess and say, we know it was this material. And then, the assessor came out and noted it was stucco a couple years later or something like that. Sometimes Sanborn maps, if you have the colored version of Sanborn maps, can indicate the material of the building being noted. So it's by
Okay.
color, and it can say if it's one color, it's brick. If it's another color, it's wood. If it's another color, it's not, right? So that could be one way. We don't have we don't have a ton of years of the Sanborn map, so it's probably not the way we could do it here, but it is a way. But that's a good question overall. And then, yeah, just noting if it's historic, if it's over 50, you could consider the stucco itself historic, but you could also say originally it was wood, originally it was brick, and then go that way. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, like I said, it probably doesn't matter, but sometime it might. I guess we could get it carbon dated or send it to the FBI.
Yeah, that's right.
Have them tell us. Yeah. No, I appreciate you doing it. The report.
Yeah, and I know DAJ Designs has done some of their HSA presentations, but would we still do those if we're getting these on a regular basis?
I can't answer that only because I don't know all the background in terms of, when Andy would come in and do them, but my general guess would be no, just only because since you're able to see them here and, certainly he does a good amount of them, but, for instance, the second one we just saw was Peter Stewart. So we would just want to make sure that if other consultants came in with a final HSA that month, we would make sure we report that too. So I'm happy to, to add this to my report and make sure I do them as we have them or on a monthly basis. So yeah, I think this would kind of be the movement where staff would undertake this and do them. Yeah.
And I think it's a good use of time. We don't necessarily need the full report every single time from the professional, and then if they do have specific concerns or they feel like we need to go through it in more depth, they can always do that during their probable cause or hearing. So I think that lends itself to we're not saying like you can't present your HSA, but we're saying like we don't necessarily need to until it's applicable more.
Yeah.
So I think a staff report is great. Does everyone else agree with that or?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't know if that was something that he offered to do or if we asked him to do. I didn't know what the background on that was. So really interesting. It's great. But I think just as far as, we've had 2 pretty low months these 2 months as far as hearings, but sometimes we have a lot. And so just being mindful of our time is, just being a little more efficient is great. And giving them space to do that when it's appropriate is awesome.
Yeah.
So. All right. Yeah, that's a great addition. So thank you for thinking of that and putting it in place. All right. We're on to our next item which is updates from commission members. Do we have any coloring book updates we need to talk about or any other items that anyone wants to talk about?
So the coloring book subcommittee unfortunately couldn't find the time to meet since last meeting. So we're hoping to meet either this week coming up or next week and then get back to all of you about the properties.
Okay. Yeah, you guys were out of town a lot this month, huh? Both of you. So that's, totally. Yeah, that's great. Any other items?
I did attend the Historical Commission meeting last Wednesday, July 21st, and I can go through just some quick updates from what the museum's, what's going on there. So Bridget, who's obviously the museum services supervisor, noted that in September will be the museum's 35th anniversary. There'll be a celebration for that. Louisville History Month is also in September, so those two things will overlap to an extent. Mm-hmm. In September, as part of that celebration, the museum will launch the Louisville Timeline, which will be online. And Bridget mentioned something that I feel like has been brought up here before, that there's not, people often ask, what is the one source in Louisville that kind of captures all of Louisville's history? And that source doesn't exist. A lot of the information about our town comes from sort of different publications, but the timeline is going to pull together a lot of those different sources, the information on a lot of those different sources into a more, kind of one-stop shop for Louisville history. So that will be really exciting to have that available to residents, that Louisville timeline.
What format is that going to be in? Like what's
It sounds like virtual, online.
like a website? Is that
like on their website somehow?
Hmm.
That's a good question. I'm not sure what format it'll be.
cool?
Yeah, so I'll have to find out. As part of the History Month celebration, there's going to be a vintage baseball game on September 11th at Miners Field. And a few of the Historical Commission members will be playing on the team, but the city is still looking for anybody who would like to volunteer. So city volunteers like all of us are welcome to volunteer to play at the vintage baseball game or not. But if you're interested, I'm sure just reach out to Bridget and let her know. So it's exciting.
Is it just for adults or is it any?
I think it's just for adults. Yeah, my sense was just for adults. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what time it is. 11 a.m. Sorry, it'll be 11 a.m. On September 11th. So if not play, perhaps think about attending. That's exciting. Bridget gave some other updates on museum operations. The committee approved some gifts from donors, and the Trot Downer cabins were discussed once again. And an interpretive plan for the cabins was discussed. Sorry, I'm taking notes on what that plan was. Sorry about that. There's not too much more. The Pioneer Award program was discussed one more time. And the 2020 recipient, Keith Hellert, was going to have a ceremony at the Elks Club. There'll be a banquet to recognize him. And then there was still ongoing discussion of how to do the 2021 Pioneer Awards. So that discussion, I think they kind of tabled that for future time. That's about it. Somebody gave an update. I gave an update on our commission, what we were doing, and the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah, those are good updates. It's always good to know what's going on over there.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Anyone else have any updates or anything before we move on to our next item?
Nope.
All right. All right. So our next item is to adjourn. So thank you guys for being here tonight and just for your consistency and commitment. And we'll see you. Is everyone coming Thursday? Is anyone not coming?
I'm going to go.
Okay. Gary and Keith, are you guys going?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll try to keep up with you guys.
No.
If you give me a head start, I might be all right.
We tried. Each one shouldn't take very long, so we've tried to. Yeah, we'll put in plenty of walking time in there. So. Yeah.
And Kim, I'm still trying to get back to you on us.
And Gary and Andrea, you guys have been to one before, right?
Just one.
Andrea hasn't, but Gary.
Yeah, no, I can't. I think it was like, because it's May.
Right.
It was some graduation. Somebody's graduating. You're right. So,
Right.
yeah.
May's like the worst for any kind of school.
Yeah.
Thing, so that's
Yeah.
understandable. So yeah, I'm excited that where it's in the summer on a weeknight, and sounds like our recipients are very excited about it. Like Kim said that there were a couple that could have been tonight, but the mapping would have worked better for them tonight, but they weren't here and they really wanted to be. So
yeah,
it's exciting when they actually want to be a part of it. So I'm excited for you guys to see how it is. And it's just a really sweet presentation, simple, but meaningful and really good. So
I probably know the answer to this, but the whole community is invited.
Absolutely.
So like I have friends who live on Lafarge. I don't think they know about this, but they might be interested in, they're new residents of Lafarge, might be interested in stopping by. That's okay.
No, it's a public event. Yeah. And that was one thing too. I don't know, as far as publication, like on Nextdoor or Facebook, like it's a public event. So definitely invite your friends. And I mean, that's a lot of it, is just having that, when there's a group of people congregated outside of a house, like it's good publicity for our program. And especially being downtown shows neighbors like that it's exciting and gets them to ask questions and possibly want them to be a part of it. So that's some of our, the purpose of it too, is not just celebration, but also community outreach. So definitely tell friends and any other kind of social networks you have in the community, definitely feel free to invite people. So, all right.
I do have a couple of comments before we adjourn. Yeah, I won't take long. Since we had a couple of different things about archiving documents, one about maybe the HSA documents going somewhere, and it sounds like a similar effort by the museum to take the various documents and make them searchable or at least findable. Maybe there's a way to, with the technology the city has to do that, to do those together. And I think that'd be a good thing. The other thing was that I'm glad you're doing the work on the coloring book committee, and I wish I could help with it. If there's anything that can be carved out that doesn't violate any subcommittee work things that I can help with, why, maybe I'd be glad to help if there's a way to make that happen. Just to say that. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Gary, as far as having that timeline, because we definitely, as a commission, we have our social histories that are on every single property that's been landmarked.
Yeah.
And we have our HSAs on any property that's been landmarked, or maybe not everyone, but anyway, we have a lot of that, which is good history, and that's definitely something that we might talk to the museum and just see if that's something that they want to somehow archive into the timeline. I don't know if that's a good idea for sure.
Yeah, and all of the laser fish reports that they have, which often are reports that Bridget has done. There are two sets of those, but they're not really searchable. And maybe we couldn't make them searchable because they're sort of fax age technology. But still, to know where they are, the system the city has is a little bulky and it only allows a few users at the same time. Anyway.
Right, it's definitely a work in progress.
Yeah, might be time to move this forward to, more modern technology.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Bridget's always working on, but it takes a lot of time and money and a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So we can help and give ideas and try to simplify things is awesome for her.
Okay.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Good night. Have a good rest
Good
of
night.
Night. Bye.
See you Thursday.